Hello and welcome to Brave Talks. Today I'm joined by Mandeep and Roman, and I'm really thrilled to have them here. So, as always, I'd like you to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about yourselves. So, who are Roman and Mandeep?
Hi, I'm Mandeep. I'm a technical consultant from London and a mental health first aider. I'm also a volunteer for various charities, mainly around food aid and providing medical support to local communities.
Hi, and I'm Roman. I'm an employee experience consultant, also based in London. I'm also the trustee of a mental health charity that supports people across London and beyond, and a passionate champion of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
So, what made you become a mental health first aider? What started that, and what's the most challenging thing?
A few years ago, I was actually working on a project as an acting manager, and I had a graduate approach me who opened up about some serious mental health struggles that they'd been having. And that prompted me to find out what resources are available in my organization, what resources are available for my colleagues, and how can we improve this. And having had my own experiences with mental health is something I'm really passionate about. It's something that I found that people don't really talk about, especially in my community. And as I started opening up about my experiences, I found that other people have started doing the same, and it's created this wonderful thread between different communities that we're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. So my experience was that my a partner of mine at the time, a few years ago, had suffered a serious mental health breakdown at work, and had spent many months off work after that as a result. And through the process of trying to support him, I also had my own therapy at the time as well, and this helped to just make me realize that actually maybe there's much more that I could be doing to help other people who are in mental health crisis. So that's why I got into it.
So, what's the kind of biggest challenges of that? What's kind of what do you feel is the thing that's most resistant for you in the workplace, or you found when working with people?
For me, I think it's the stigma that blocks people or prevents people from reaching out when they need help. There's a stigma because people don't feel that they can talk about it, or they feel they might be reprimanded for it in a certain way, or somebody might retaliate against them. And I think that's the biggest blocker that I have found, and we're trying to do our best to change that.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I think also that there's something about having the permission to know that you can talk about these things, which goes alongside what Mandy was saying there as well. But I think once people know that there is a space for them to be able to talk about things associated with their mental health, I think that helps. But we've got a big challenge in helping people to understand that this is possible, and there is space for people to talk about their mental health.
And do you feel there's any misconceptions about this?
I think one misconception that I found is that people may struggle with the confidentiality aspect of it. People might think that what they say to somebody isn't kept confidential, but as a mental health first aider, we're completely independent of managers, and we keep things as confidential as the person that we're speaking to would like, with the exception of if we think there's a risk that they might harm themselves or others.
Yeah, indeed, and I think perhaps another misconception on the opposite side is that somehow mental health first aiders might be sort of professionally trained as psychologists or doctors or psychiatrists, and actually obviously that's not the case. We do go through some training, and it's very helpful, but really our job is to understand and recognize what's happening to people, to be there to create space for them, and then to signpost them to the best form of help.
And do you think, from a workplace perspective, this is something that is absolutely necessary? I mean, do you see a difference that's made on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. In the time that I've been working in the mental health space, I've noticed that people have started opening about things more, and it humanizes people, especially when you're working with people. You see them as a title or you see them as a job role. But I have found that people have become more comfortable in utilizing resources and talking about it, which I think is an absolutely wonderful thing.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that there is definitely need for different layers of support with regards to mental health, and I think mental health first aiders play a really important role in the middle of that. But I think as Mandeep says, the more that people are becoming aware of issues around mental health, fortunately more people are prepared to talk about it, which I think is how it's sort of helping to sort of destigmatize the whole topic.
And do you think there's something more that organisations can do to help?
I think it's about, as Roman's been saying, creating a space and trying to give people the confidence to utilize that space and feel comfortable in walking into it and owning it and taking the help that they need. And mental health is something that affects, I think, 1 in 4 people a year. So we need to be doing more. And we certainly can be doing more. And I think organizations need to place it as more of an important focus in a person's career rather than just what they're producing, perhaps.
Yeah, indeed. I think also we kind of think more about how we design the processes of our and our cultures of our organizations, and I think within doing that and evolving as organizations, we should always apply a layer of people's individual experiences to their roles at work. So I think being conscious of the impacts that people might have from mental health and from the external environment on their ability to do their job, as we're designing the processes that we expect people to get involved in and the work that we expect people to do. I think that's a good way of making sure that we are building organizations that are really human focused. I think that also helps people to be more forthcoming about mental health challenges.
That's really great. Mandeep, you mentioned something about 1 in 4 people suffer. I mean, I think these are things that people don't really realize or think. Are there other things or other facts or other pieces of information that people should be aware of or mightn't be aware of?
I can't remember the exact figure, but I know the amount that mental health costs organizations is a lot bigger than I had expected. And it's not even the cost to it. I mean, just understanding that how a person feels and the mental health that they have, how it can impact not only themselves as an individual, but what they bring to work is a big thing. And it affects so many people. And I mean, when I went through my mental health struggles, there was nobody I could talk to, at least that's how I felt, because nobody had ever talked about it. So I didn't understand what I was going through. And now there's so many people that I do know who have gone through these things. And it's just opened up a world where I don't feel like I'm alone. And I hope that others can feel the same as well. That's why I think it's important that there is such a focus placed on it.
Yeah, and I think there's a really important role of leadership here as well, which is to give permission and create the space for people to be able to come out and talk about their mental health challenges as well. And I think the more we've seen leaders come forward and talk about personal experiences they've had with mental health, the more that encourages people in the areas that they operate in to know that it's okay to talk about these things as well. So yeah, I think it's really important for leaders to take that responsibility as well as part of their jobs.
I agree with you, Roman. I agree with you, Roman, because I found that people sometimes at work are afraid to open up because they feel they might experience some sort of retaliation. And I found a really positive response when people who are managers or in leadership roles talk about their own experiences with it.
I think that's so important. I mean, that's why we kind of do these talks as well. We want to open it up to show people that there are other people like you suffering or facing challenges, and that it's good to talk about it, because I think that we've certainly seen it. We've certainly seen it in our organisation where it's helped people just to be open and talk about these things. So it's really helpful. Just thinking about you as individuals, I mean, how's this work or how's your interactions helped with your personal development?
It's made me treat it much more importantly in my day-to-day role at work. I had somebody reach out to me on Friday and say, "Oh, I heard you're a mental health first aider." And I just opened up a little bit about what it is and my own experiences. And I look out for people's well-being probably more than I would have before. I talk to them, I talk about it in calls on my project, in my practice, and it's helped me outside of work as well with friends and with volunteer groups to just realize that we all might be suffering from something and treat people with a little bit more kindness than we maybe would expect.
Mm. Yeah, and I think similarly, I think being a mental health first aider has also helped me understand how how better to communicate with others, which is a more general, obviously an important skill in life, probably something we're going to be learning for the rest of our lives. I think it does help us to be better people, in order, because we are more we understand the reasons for compassion and empathy and understanding, and it helps us to sort of apply it more. I think also in regards to leadership as well, I think taking responsibility and being the person that people can come to and creating space for people, I think are probably underrated leadership capabilities, but actually more and more important today.
How do you think this impacts the wider business and organisation by having people like yourselves that offer this support and help?
I think it makes people feel more comfortable. At least that's what I've seen. They feel more comfortable opening up about what they're maybe struggling with, and opening up to their managers and saying, I think I need a bit more support, or I think I need a flexible working pattern to help me cope with what I'm going through. And I've seen people utilizing that, and it helps them from an individual perspective. Maybe they need just a little bit of flexibility or a little bit of a break until maybe they feel like they don't need it so much anymore.
Absolutely. And I think also by improving your mental health and well-being kind of capabilities, you're also, as well as individually helping people, you're also sort of sending a message about the culture you want to be as an organization as well, which I think is very helpful for people to understand that they're all part of something and belong to something that cares at some level. And that's also quite attractive to people when they consider which organizations they might want to come and work for, because is it going to be the organization where I can develop, but also I can be supported and people care as well. So I think there's a sort of compound effect of providing, great mental health and well-being support, both on the organisation and more broadly.
When people are looking in and thinking about joining a company, how important do you think this support is to them?
I think things like mental health are becoming more important to people who are applying. People, we've all been through a lot in the last 3 years with the pandemic and lots of different crises happening around the world. And I feel like people more now, when they're applying for jobs, look at things like culture in a different way than they did before. They look at things like work-life balance in a way that people didn't before. And as Roman was saying, it's important that we not just show as an organization that we care, but actually implement it and be an organization that does care.
Absolutely, for sure. And I kind of taking my focus a little bit as an employee experience consultant, I think more and more the experience that people are looking for when they go into an organization can I be myself? Can I bring everything that I can bring to work? Because I want to be my best and because I want to strive and I want to do what I can. But also, will I be supported in moments that matter in this organization? Does this feel like somewhere that I can connect and I can belong and I can be part of something? I think, as Mandeep said, this is becoming a question that more and more people are asking before they make a decision about whether or not to apply for organizations.
And I completely agree. I mean, it's something we've seen within our organisation as well, that there's a real look at the culture when it's not just a monetary thing. It's not just other benefits, and it is how do you treat your people and how do you work on a day-to-day basis. It's critical. I'm just wondering. I've talked about organisation. I asked you about the organisations and what they can do differently. But what do you think from a management perspective? Because it's a new territory, as you say. It's changed in the last 3 years. Definitely changed in the last 3 years. It's almost come out into the open. It was in the dark, and now it's come into the open, which is a good thing. But what can managers do? Is there things that they can change and be conscious of? What have you seen? What examples have you seen?
And I've certainly seen that training for managers has improved and been created to help them support employees with mental health and how they can help them, which resources they can use. And I've noticed it. I mean, I switched managers a couple of years ago, and my new manager now, when I have regular career catch-ups with him, asks me, firstly, how are you doing? How are you feeling as a person? Because regardless of everything else going on at work, I want to know how you're doing. And that's important. It makes me feel that they care about me as a person, as well as, all the other results that I produce. But I've definitely seen training improve, and just having a focus on looking out for employees' mental health and well-being is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. One of the things that I've seen work really well in our organisation in particular is a sort of company-wide promotion of mental health education, awareness education, that everybody's able to access, and having a sort of structure around that, and being able to understand what some of the implications are and some of the signs are and how to spot them and what to do. I think that just gives the manager confidence that they know enough to have conversations and create that space with people. And maybe previously they might be a bit put off by the fact that they feel that they don't have the knowledge to embrace this conversation. But I think that training such as this for all managers, I think is really helpful in just giving them the confidence to know that they can instigate those conversations and they can point people in the right directions if they need help.
Absolutely. And this is very much a journey as well. I mean, we're not at the finish line yet. And I feel like people are still learning and mistakes will happen, but it's okay to make mistakes if it's coming from a genuine place, if you're going to learn from that, obviously interact with people. So are there any kind of key messages you have to people to really support them, or what should they do to kind of take the next steps if they're kind of hesitant about reaching out to someone?
I think for me, my key message is you are not alone. If you're thinking about utilizing a mental health resource, even a tiny part of your brain just wonders, should I check that out? Should I just have a look at it? I would say just check it out. It's not as scary as it might seem, and it might just help you.
Absolutely. I think the other part is, there's an element of bravery in that, and perhaps that's most appropriate for this context. But another form of bravery is courage, and courage. The word for courage comes from the heart, and it's just a way of saying I need to. I will put my heart out there to say this is how I'm feeling at the moment. But the response to that vulnerability should always be from people like us, from people who want to help, from cultures that want to help, is tell me how you're feeling, and let me know what I can do to help you. So I think there's a bit of bravery, a bit of courage in there, and then opening up and talking to people. And at least around myself and Mandeep, no doubt, you'll always find someone who's prepared to sit with you and be with you and listen.
And I'm sure Roman will attest to this. We've had lots of mental health calls over the years, and we've both shared our own experiences with it, and it does take a bit of courage to share it. But I found that when you do share it, there's always somebody who's watching and just thinks, oh, maybe it's okay for me to just share a little bit of my story. And then someone else starts sharing a bit of theirs. And it becomes such a beautiful space where people don't feel so scared. And because we work in a big organization, it's important that we do this work at small levels, because I work in groups where people know me personally. And, if I'm saying this is my experience and I'm a manager and this is what I do, people don't feel so scared to reach out. And I find that's really significant.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. It's been fantastic to talk to you, and also I really appreciate the time that you dedicate in your workplace as well, because it's a big commitment on top of everything else that we have to do on a day-to-day basis. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. And hopefully we'll see you in future Brave Talks.